Welcome to Centered Presents The Future of Health. Join me, Christina Waleka, along with Dr. Molly Brown, as we dive deep into the world of brain-based wellness.
In each episode, we will explore cutting-edge insights and practical techniques that empower you to achieve optimal health and super high-energy living.
Tune in and start your journey toward a healthier, more vibrant you. Welcome to Centered Presents The Future of Health. We are lucky enough to have Oscar-nominated actress, best-selling author, and wellness advocate Mariel Hemingway.
Mariel, one of the things I want to talk about today is just your own personal focus on such a high integrity, healthy lifestyle, which is why I feel like we've gotten to be such good friends because it's unusual, right? And
Right.
I think a lot of people probably don't know, but you live such a clean, healthy lifestyle. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that, about how you've stayed so positive and focused on a high integrity level of health with all the different, careers you juggle.
Well, I think I kind of have to give some context to like the journey I've been on. So the reason why I was so involved in health is because I come from this amazing family, right? Ernest Hemingway is my grandfather, and I have, had an amazing sister, my father, and all these things, bright, amazing, creative humans that also suffered from addiction and all these other things. And there was many suicides in my family. So my kind of focus very early on in my life, it literally started in my teens, was if I can control my physical body, maybe I won't, and this, some people don't like to hear this word, but maybe I won't go crazy like the rest of my family. I love them, but I was terrified that I would end up like them, not realizing that it was their lifestyle habits, but intuitively, I must have known that living my life in a healthy, clean way was going to help my brain. Did I always make the best choices? Probably not. I was a little extreme, but it led me to this place where now in my 60s, I'm like as healthy as I've ever been, and I'm as happy as I've ever been, and I'm probably under more stress than I've ever been in my life. And yet, everything can be juggled if you create lifestyle choices that actually work, because they do.
No, and that's a really good point you bring up. And working as a therapist, I always recommend with my clients, I'm like, let the body go and the mind will follow. Like if you are sleeping well, like moving your body, eating well, and living in a routine that's healthy for you, that is the jump start to getting your mind there. It's not the solution. It's not gonna, but it gives you a good push forward and a good start to getting better.
Absolutely. And I speak around the world now, which is kind of cool, but I speak about mental health. But I always talk about Bobby, my significant other, partner, husband, without being married person. We talk about the 7 doctors, and the 7 doctors are Dr. Sun, Dr. Air, Dr. Water, Dr. Nutrition, Dr. Exercise, Dr. Earth, and Dr. Rest. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they're free, right? If you focus on just the simplicity of getting up and looking at a sunrise or watching a sunset or taking your shoes off and getting them on the ground, or, and drinking water and learning how to breathe. If you focus on these simple things that you can do, then the recovery from any kind of mental anxiety, depression, whatever it is, even severe mental illness, it can be lessened. You can find, I think there's a solution. Always. I always think there's a solution. I always think that nature has a solution, right? And like what you guys do, because you're doing, yes, you're helping people with technologies and things, but you're activating the body to do the job. And that's what we're designed to do. We're designed to be healthy.
Yeah. And also I love the fact that you have a lifestyle where you're alcohol free, correct?
Yes, I am. I know. And, I'm in a business I'm not as in it as I used to be, but being in the entertainment business, I don't know if you watch any shows. You probably don't because but I'm interested in watching new shows and movies and all that stuff. And everybody drinks and, like it's a solution. And I think what happened with COVID too, it's like everybody sort of thinks it's like, oh, well, poor us. So that's a solution to somehow being anxious, depressed. And of course, alcohol, not only is it a poison, it's a depressant. So what, but yeah, I am alcohol free. I don't judge people that have a glass of wine. Like, I don't care. I just feel that you should know that what you're doing is probably not the best for your overall health over a long period of time. Doing it once in a while, you do whatever you want.
I just think that like to live a healthy lifestyle for the sake of just feeling your best all the time, right? I think that's a model that more and more people are going to, that, just the sake of feeling your best. So tell us, for example, your morning routine, because I know it's extensive, right? But I think it will be hard to be in a bad mood following a morning routine like you. So take us through your example morning routine.
I'll take you back to before I go to sleep. So before I go to sleep, I try to imagine the day that I want to have the next day, right? So last night, I'm like, I'm going to do this podcast, like I'll have a morning, I'll do my hike or whatever. But I envision, okay, I will see myself doing a podcast with my friend Molly and her partner, and it's going to be great, whatever. Right now, if I do that, because I do think that we're sort of like computers, dare I say that in this land of AI, but we can be programmed, right? So
we can be positively programmed. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you give yourself that mantra kind of before you go to sleep and you wake up. So I wake up, and one of the things that I like to do is I envision the day, but I also I take a few moments just to be grateful, just to say, thank you. You've been to my house. I'm so grateful that I live here. I'm like, oh my God, the sun's out again. I'm going to be able to see a sunrise, like there's so many things to be grateful for. And I'm fortunate. So, there's even more reasons to be grateful. So there I do a little gratitude in bed. I get up, I drink a ton of water. We spin water to create kind of frequency so that it's clean and it's mineralized. So I spin it for anywhere from 18 to 27 minutes. And then I drank like a whole, 32 ounces of water. But Bobby and I had read this thing about these Japanese people that drink this whole bunch of water and it's supposed to flush your system first thing in the morning. So I do that. And I do make coffee, which Bobby doesn't like, but who cares? Because I really like it.
The one vice. It's okay.
I'm on that.
And I figure, well, it's organic. And I love the ritual. I also think that you have to do things that you love, right? And I love the smell. I love doing it. I love making it. I love everything about it. And so I have my coffee. I go out and I watch. I literally am able on sunny days to watch a sunrise most every day of the year, which is unbelievably good for you. And also I can't be more grateful for that. I also believe that getting light in your eyes first thing in the morning is hugely important. When it isn't sunny, I get in front, you have red light in your space, but I put red light on my face and get it in my eyes. I just think it's really important. And for someone who has suffered from depression and weird things, I know that these things help my level of joy, So that's the basic, that's the mini part of the morning. And then I go for a hike.
Kind of touching on that, and again, you've been in an industry that has a lot of triggers, but also it's hard to stay on track and kind of live this lifestyle. So what has allowed you to stay above the negative or not fall down the wrong path? How have you kept on this positive journey and maintain your grace and this success?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you. Because if that's how it appears, awesome. I think there's always somebody in a family that becomes that person that breaks a mold. I truly believe there's somebody that says, I don't think we're supposed to be doing this, right? So when I think about my sisters or I think about my family, they weren't the people that needed to like go, whoa, we don't have to do it this way anymore. So I think there was just like I think I was guided internally. And I'm a big believer that we need to have habit. I meditate. When I watch the sunrise, I forgot one of the most important things. I meditate. Meditation, getting still, getting quiet, being with your thoughts, no thoughts, your anxiety, whatever is in that moment, just allowing that to be. Those moments of stillness, they have trained me to know that all energy moves, right? So when you start to feel anxious, depressed, whatever, if you take a moment to inhale and exhale, breathe, concentrate, and then focus your energy on really what's happening with your breath and your body, that energy tends to shift. Now, if that doesn't work, I go for a walk or a hike. Moving your body is a great way to shift energy. I don't know why I didn't take weird paths, but it just didn't feel right for me, right? It just didn't. I also saw my sisters just go down crazy paths, and it made me sad because I just felt intuitively that it was like sad and wrong and not a healthy way to go.
Does anything come to mind in terms of mental strength and resilience, like a pivotal point or where you've really had to challenge yourself?
So I don't know if I've told you this, Molly, but I might have. I have been around the world. I've followed gurus and woo-woos and I've done a lot of things. I've been in sweat lodges and I've primal screamed and I've done some things. And there was one time that I went to India. I was in my 40s. I went to India with my two girls, and they were kids. They were like 13 and 11, and went with my girls and my ex-husband, and we went all over India. And then we ended up in Dharamsala, and we got to meet His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. And it was a pivotal moment. First of all, meeting him, we got to have a private audience with him. And when I say private audience, there was like 10 people, and they were all like heads of companies, and they were whoop-de-doos, and they all had like incredible political questions to ask His Holiness. And I was just super excited to be there, and I had nothing to ask him. but so it was a little kind of house, but it had a little staircase that came up. There was a second level, and the monks sort of came down before him, and then he came down this stairwell. It wasn't grand. It was just like he came down the stairs, and there were some overstuffed chairs there, like 3, and then there was pillows kind of in front of him. And I started to go towards the pillows in front of him, and he pointed to the chairs next to him, and he like guided me to sit there, and I was like, holy shit. Oh my God, His Holiness, like, he wants to hang out with me. I'm so excited. Anyway, so I sat down next to him, and all kidding aside, the most extraordinary thing about watching him was the fact that he sat there we were talking with him, but he basically was listening. He took in every person that would ask him a question as though they were the only person in the room. He was so all-encompassing. He looked at that person. You could tell they felt so heard, so seen, right? And I know this from mental health work that most people that are depressed or having suicide ideation and things, they feel unheard, they feel unseen. So watching him do that, I was so struck. And periodically he would look over at me. He would look over at me and he would kind of smile and giggle. And when I get nervous, probably can tell, I giggle and I laugh. And so we were laughing and giggling with each other. So I thought I was having an unspoken communication with him. Anyway, long story short, he listens to everyone. I don't say anything. I'm just happy to be there. And after an hour and a half of him watching him listen and having such pure intention and being so happy and being so clear, it was time to get up and go. And I was perfectly satisfied. And I started to get up out of the chair and he put his hand, it still makes me cry today. He put his hand on my hand and he looked me in the eye and he said, "You're okay." And it was so profound because I had spent a lifetime since my teens trying to find someone or some guru or some doctor or some yoga teacher or somebody to tell me something like, "Oh, you'll figure it out for me." And what he was saying was, you're okay, right? You don't need me. You don't need these guru. You don't need anything. You already know. And that was the pivotal moment where I said, "Oh, jeez, I need to share this with people. Everybody's okay." Now, does it mean we don't need help? No, of course we need help. I need to go to Molly and get AIMIT work done. I need stuff. We all need stuff. But at the end of the day, what I feel about me and my intuition, that's what matters. My health is defined by what I think about, how my brain works, how my brain and body are in harmony, right? So that was the moment that I realized that I needed to help other people to understand that this searching outside of ourselves is really not the way. It's what I love about what you both do, is that you're creating an environment where you're helping a person to heal themselves, because it's our job. It's not about going to a doctor. He gives you a pill and see you later. And I don't have to take any responsibility for how I got there, right? We're all, I feel, responsible for how we are in this moment. It's because of choices we made. That's not blame. That's just like, hey, live with it. It's fine. And you can change it.
Your story gave me chills. And
Yeah.
one thing, again, Molly and I both work a lot with a younger generation, especially with the way the world's going and social media. And I see it on a daily basis. But how do we communicate with teens that there is hope and there is a better tomorrow, especially during like challenging times?
Education. I was just in Spain and I spoke to university students at this, Spain, the Spanish college. It was the American university, but they were all Spanish kids. They were learning, English and they were so rapt. I spoke for about an hour and they were so rapt. They were so engaged in the story. But what they really appreciated, I think, is that parts of my story, which are not unique to me, they're everybody's story. Everybody has a story. Everybody comes from something. Everybody's had something. We all have a little bit of trauma in our lives. And I think acknowledging that and sharing that, making these kids realize that, look, you're not alone. And I did talk about social media. I talked about the 7 doctors, but I talked about social media and I said, look, it's great. It's not going to go away. It's fun, but look at it for what it is. It's not real. Nobody's putting up ugly pictures of themselves or, you know what I mean? It's like, everybody's like, oh, can I make myself look, like I got a life. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing I really admire about you is like, with everything you've talked to like about challenges in, the acting industry and just challenges over, different times, but you always seem to stay very gracious and kind to every single person that comes your way. And I really admire that about you. And I think it's probably because you feel so good. That's the whole thing. Like, right. If people can just focus on feeling their very best, that is, I think, like the best start to the day. Right. And
100%.
yeah, like you were talking about a couple of weeks ago, just like if you wake up and you start your day anchored in that type of gratitude and that type of health, I mean, the rest of the day is just bonus, right? Because you already are feeling so good.
Right, right. And if you don't, and not every day is perfect, right? If you don't, there are tools, right? It's move your body or don't move your body. Maybe it's a day that you actually need to rest. And sometimes that's the hardest thing for people like me. It's like, oh, do nothing? Oh, shit. How do I do that? But, there's always something that you can do.
So really, like it's not even like we have to extract mental health is what you're saying, right? It's just your whole lifestyle of your health, your body health, your physical health, your mental health, your spirit for life, like how to magnify that every day.
100%, because people seem to think that our brain is like it's disconnected from the body. What's going on in the body is creating health in the brain. What's going on in the brain is going to affect the body. And if you don't try to harmonize the two of them, it's what I love about your work. You're activating the brain so the brain can talk to the body. And then that's also the gut too. The gut biome being another brain. It's like we have to make sure that, and the heart, like all of these different brains that are kind of that are part of this physical being, they all work together. So you can't separate any of them, any of it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Our physical health is so much a part of our mental health.
Very much so. How has creativity impacted your mental health journey, if it has?
I mean, I think that creativity on any level it's almost like exercise. It feeds you. Like to be creative in any kind of way, whether it's cooking, writing in a journal, whatever it is, that activity of doing something where the brain and body sort of come into harmony, right? That's what creativity is. And creativity it's yoga's a little creative at times if you really see it for what it is, this movement on the heels of breath, right? And you can be creative with that, right? And I think that people tend to also think that creativity is only, oh, I have to be a painter, I have to, play an instrument. Like creativity can happen in so many different ways, and it's also another really good way to feel better and to get grounded.
The creative spirit is like my marker for when I'm feeling my best, like when I'm in that state of flow, I know I'm feeling really good. And when I'm feeling overly tired or overly worked, I feel like my creativity goes down. So for me, it's like my marker of where I'm at and what I need.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, and when you're creative, I like to write.
You do?
Like,
I didn't know that.
You just have a few books.
Yeah.
When you write and it just comes, right? You're just writing. Or even doing this, like when there's a flow, that there's a creativity to that too. And I'm sure even when you're healing, although I don't do it, but I think that you must feel days where you're so in tune with people that come in, right? You just feel, oh, I got this. And you don't even have to think about it. It's natural. It's just a natural flow for you. And I know that you must do that. I'm so admiring of people that do healing, that help other people. I just think it's extraordinary. So my hat's off to both of you.
Well, you as well. And I'm wondering again, as a mom too, often having this open outlook on life and again, practicing what you preach, how do you think that's affected your daughters' lives? And have they been as open to it? And have you seen kind of them follow your footsteps in a way?
Okay, so my girls are, well, your age. My girls are in their 30s, right? And one has a daughter now, and I'm watching that. That's an interesting unfolding of like, now you realize that, everything that they said about, oh, wait till you have grandchildren and then wait till your kids have kids. Then they'll know how either difficult they were or whatever. But, yes, I think that was impactful. I think that I wasn't always, I was a really young mom in my opinion. I mean, I think even though people have babies way younger, I was, like 26 and 28 with my infants. And I don't know, I was a young woman. I was still really struggling with those fears of being crazy. So I wasn't always like super balanced. And, and I always wonder, oh gosh, I wonder if I had been different, more like I am now, if that could have impacted them. But they are extraordinary human beings. I mean, my youngest is an artist, a painter, and she's so amazing. She's so talented. And my oldest is an actress and a model, and she's super. I mean, they're very confident. So I know I did something. They're very, like, they speak up. They're not shy about it. They're not victims. So that I like, because I played victim for a very long time, and they're not that at all. So if I did one good thing, maybe I opened that door so they didn't have to, or I crashed that door down so they didn't have to go in it.
No, and part of the reason I asked that question is, again, I go back to this idea of like the future of health, the future of mental health. How can we set up our future generations for success?
Again, I'll go back to education. I think that we have to educate that it's these simple forms of wellness that we have to really we have to push on those things and show them how impactful they are. How, starting your day is an impactful way to start your day. Learning to breathe. Nobody knows how to breathe. That kids are going off to schools, and yes, they're studying hard and they've got massive amounts of homework, but they're panicking and they're not breathing. And that, there's a lack of balance to all of it. And our youth is eating crappy food. And that, when I think about my childhood, yes, I probably ate more sugar than I do now, but I think the food was far less processed back in the 70s, right? I don't think it was. Now it's just like it's hard to find good, healthy food. And especially at universities and colleges, the food that they give to kids is horrible. And we've got to change that system. That is wrong. The fact that that people that have less money can't afford to eat good food is completely criminal. It's just wrong. I don't know. I think we have to educate about food, about all of these different simplistic things.
We all have, like you said, ups and downs, right? But I feel like you must be doing something right, because it is true. This is like the happiest and most radiant I've ever seen you. Like you're just, and going through that process and navigating challenges and then overcoming them and being present in that process. I think that role modeling that alone is important for people to witness, right? I mean, you've definitely had challenges in your life and you've handled them gracefully and you've overcome them, and you've done that by staying healthy.
Thank you for that. It's true. I mean, if I didn't have the lifestyle habits that I have, I would not have navigated those waters so well. I wouldn't have. But thank God I had the tools that I had to get through those challenging times. And we all have challenging times, but you've got to know that, wow, there's things that you can do to prevent them from taking you down, right? And it's in those simple acts of kindness of yourself, right? That self-care.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a good point. And again, the education, but the education being as simple as going back to the basics of the 7 principles you mentioned. And no matter where you come from, your socioeconomic background, like walking into the sunlight every day, nurturing your body with, again, like the whole foods, like we've talked about, the exposure to cold therapy, the things that are honestly free and resourceful and anyone can have access to. Your brain will follow the body, and just providing yourself with those nutrients and feeding your soul.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it gets, all of those different things get rid of neuroinflammation. Neuroinflammation is the reason why we have mental problems, because there's something in the brain that's not, at the right level, and there's inflammation in the brain too. And I think that that's not addressed enough. Like I think there's so many pharmaceuticals out there, but those are just Band-Aids at best. Like, let's put a damper on it. And I'm not saying that that everybody has to go in the same path, but even if you do need something like a pharmaceutical, and you may, then use it as a way to figure out, then how do I change my life so I don't have to use this pharmaceutical anymore, but I can, make some shifts and be in control of my well-being on my own. I think taking responsibility for one's mental health is a big part of healing.
Yeah. And also just the joy of feeling good and being healthy, right? I feel like people don't understand how amazing that is to feel good in your body every single day.
Yeah. Bobby and I were thinking about that the other day. We were like, probably so few people know what it's like to feel good.
To feel good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. To just feel good, to wake up and feel good. So he's created this machine that pressurizes you at different altitudes. And we see people that, probably had a few drinks the night before or whatever. And they're kind of like,
seriously?
They're looking a little rough. And there was one guy who was a rapper, and he came in, and you could tell he had tied one on the night before. And he got in there with Bobby, and he came out and he goes, dude, he said, I did not feel good at the beginning of this. And he says, and I don't feel that way anymore. This machine, it's called Stratosphere, and it takes you up and down in altitude, and it expands and contracts every cell in your body. And what it did is it helped his brain to release it. It helps you detoxify, and it detoxifies you fast because you're going up and down. But it's just so interesting that most people probably are feeling kind of okay most days, right? And then when you feel good, you're like, whoa, the lights just went on. Like, holy crap, I feel like I did when I was a kid. Totally. I think that you should feel that way every day.
Every day, yeah. Yeah, we have this chart at my clinic that's like, if you ask people where they are, like just dragging through the day, and lots of pain would be like the lowest, right? And then kind of mid-level is like aches and pains, doesn't sleep that well, kind of drags through the day. And the top level is can't wait to get out of bed, feels amazing in your body, full of positive gratitude, right? And that's like, I feel like just to hold the model for that level of health is like amazing work.
Yeah.
And it's simple. It's simpler than like I saw this study on they showed a mouse trying to get out of a maze, like on healthy food, and the mouse just got right out of the maze. And then they fed it today's food, just today's typical standard food, and it actually, the brain became demented.
That eats horribly, and the brain is going, and it's going fast. And as we get older, it's bad.
Well, I think it's also important to recognize how all of this is affecting the world, because we talk about people not feeling their best selves, and you interact with people every day, and in a world where there are billions of people, everyone feels so alone and isolated
and confused and anxious
and lonely. And it's just because people aren't feeling their best. And I think a lot of people take it personally. A lot of people don't know how, like, it makes people not want to engage with other people. But you go to a beautiful place like Sun Valley, or where people are living healthier, more vibrant lifestyles, and everyone's saying hello to each other. Everyone's talking at the grocery store. Everyone's just happy to be alive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. There was just a commercial because I was watching football, and I was like, and they always have like healthy people, like attractive, healthy people, like drinking some soft drink or whatever, looking like they're super healthy and happy. But that's the programming that they're getting, so they watch television, they get the commercials, they believe what they're seeing, and they believe that food and the different drinks and all the stuff with all the chemicals and all the dyes is actually good for them. And then you've got our athletes drinking, drinks, and they're being supported by drinks that are really poisoning them. I mean, it blows my mind, actually,
And people don't know better, so they just follow and do what they're told.
Yeah, I think what's probably for all of us, it's like, you're just so stunned. Like, really, people don't know? People don't know what bad food is, but people don't. They really don't. Like, they don't know that you shouldn't deep fry in bad oil. They don't know about seed oil. There's so many things they don't know about. Like, they don't even know what processed food is.
Being someone who's, again, traveled all over the world and spoken at all these different forums and on these different platforms, bring it back to the sense of community. How important do you think community support is in fostering a healthy lifestyle?
I think it's probably one of the biggest things and it's really that community that you create around yourself. And the healthier you get and the happier you get, you gravitate. It's like you create family within your family. That's kind of an extension of your belief systems.
Yeah.
Because that's what gravitates towards you. Right. So when you are social, it's with the people that understand how you're living because they're feeling the same way. Right. And that community is very important because as we educate ourselves and then the community gets more educated, then that is that ripple effect, right? That's the drop of water in the lake that keeps rippling out. And that affects many, many people because, his cousin comes over in the summer and they can see how you're doing. And people do want to feel better. I think they inherently, and they're so curious when you are happy and you're healthy, right? It's like, how'd you get that way?
That's the growth in the human experience, is transforming through our hardships and difficulties. And that's why, like, having that network of conscious people that are sort of like light workers, right? To lift people up. That's the sort of community we're creating and want to be a part of, right?
Absolutely.
Whereas in the past, there was no community necessarily that I necessarily wanted to be a part of like that. But this type of community, this healthy community, is really like, it's exciting for me.
And again, with the way the world's going, I think through the yoga community, through the cold plunge community, through the hiking community, through just all these different arts or practices, people are really connecting and finding purpose and motivation and spreading the word and becoming healthier, better versions of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I also think that all those different communities are really so interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
healthy lifestyle. Happy people.
You do a cold plunge because you had an amazing workout, because you were in the sauna or whatever, and then because you feel good, that's part of the education. Feeling good becomes the catalyst for you wanting to know more about something, right? That activates the brain to go, oh, I want to learn about this. Why do I feel better? Oh, wow. Because, those cells that are activated in the heat, that get activated in the cold. Oh, wow. I really want to learn more about that. And then how does breath affect that? It's all intertwined. And then you start to get into food and how that those nutrients go in, and then that creates even more health, and then more curiosity. I want to know more. And that, I think my yoga practice for so many years was a catalyst to that, because that was the whole idea behind yoga, is that you stay curious. You're curious why your body feels a certain way, or a posture makes you feel a certain way, or you're pushing against it, or whatever the story is. And then you take that into your, when people say about taking yoga off the mat, that's what it is. It's staying curious. It's staying in the breath, staying in the present moment. And that's the key to everything, is if we can stay present, then where's the problem in the present moment? There really isn't one. You might be having to deal with something, but there's really no problem. You're either dealing with it or you're pretending it's not there. And that's not being present. But if you're present, you're just like, okay, I'm going to go after this because this is what's up.
Yeah, being resilient. I think that's sort of been our theme today, like transformation through hardships or health issues or even injury, and then being resilient in the face of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the key. I think that's the key for everything. And that's where the things like a strong body, a strong mind, challenging yourself with different, because I know not only do you get up and meditate in the morning and you watch the sunrise, but then you cold plunge, and then you jump on the trampoline, and then you work out, and then and then you hike more. And that it builds a strong character and a strong body and a strong mind. And I think that's where we're going with the future. It's not that we need these fancy, or expensive equipment necessarily, or definitely we don't maybe need pharmaceuticals, but really just to come back to ourselves and build a strong body, mind, and character so that we can be healthy, right?
Yeah. But people need guidance on how to do that. Because I know it's simple, but it took me a lot of years to figure out it was. I was like, oh wow, this is simple. Yeah. Jeez, wasted a lot of time.
Yeah, just even the most basics, right? And that's what the stratosphere is it's oxygen and pressure and just the basics of natural forces to amplify your own body's functioning.
I think that goes back to education and being exposed to what are my options if I'm not feeling well, or I'm sick, or I need to solve this injury, being given all the options, and then letting yourself, the person who knows your body best, make that choice.
Yes. And yeah, advocating for yourself, right? It's people are afraid to do that. We're afraid to, question what a doctor says. We're afraid to buck up against authority because then we're a bad person. But we're not. If it's about you, you need to ask every question. And then you need to get still and silent and ask yourself, okay, does this feel right for me? Right? Whatever comes up. Right? And there's so many different, and people are dealing with so much, and they're overwhelmed. There's so much illness. It's really bizarre. It's sad. And I think it has to do with the fact that our food isn't good anymore, and we're breathing weird air, and it's, oh my gosh, it's so. But again, I'm going to be positive about that, is oh, but I know what I can do. And I can share that with the ones that I love.
And so many more. The gift you're giving is, again, I think, setting our bodies up for longevity and success from just getting this knowledge from such a young age. Hopefully you'll be more resilient as time goes on. And again, inflammation, if you're less inflamed, you're less likely to get diseases or suffer from autoimmune. And you're, again, the longevity and healthiness long term.
Right. And also, I just think it's important for people to know that even when we are told that we have an autoimmune disease, that there's a solution.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's I think that everybody is told, oh, you've got that. Oh, well, damn. I guess that I gotta live with that for the rest of my life. No,
Yeah.
no.
No, I mean, we heard a story this morning of, someone who cured themselves from leukemia by swimming in cold water, right? Just cold water. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's stories of that everywhere. So that's where I think we model that future of health is going back to, like you said, the very basics, like looking at the food we eat, taking care of ourselves, living a spiritually guided life and protecting that with everything we have.
Absolutely. I mean, think about, we were talking about Norman Cousins the other day, who laughed himself out of cancer. He had cancer and he laughed his way out of it. It's like, okay.
Cured from laughter.
Like, awesome. So I'm all for that. I love to laugh.
Well, think about that. That's the optimism, the positive outlook. And when you are more optimistic and positive and to some extent like faith, and you believe you can get better, you're more likely to get better versus sitting in negativity. You're not going to get better if you don't think you can. Let's just.
Well, and they say in anything that you get, belief in what you're doing, whatever it is, Western, Eastern, whatever, your belief in it is going to be probably a great deal of the success of that, and I mean, I think we see that a lot. It's just, I wish people would believe in healthier versions,
Well, I think it's
part.
the perfect opportunity for people that are, starting. Healthcare is in such a crisis, right? And it's just a huge opportunity for taking charge of your health and going back to like the things you're talking about, or even thinking about the things, right? It's like we're not. I mean, it's diabetes is skyrocketing. I think 80% each year. There's 80%. 2025 is right around the corner, but it was expected that diabetes would reach the Hispanic communities 80% by 2025, because that's where the marketing of sodas and corn chips, genetically modified corn chips, is targeted towards that economic bracket. And so we don't have to eat that, right? Like we can actually, it's not more expensive to eat healthy, to eat vegetables. It's not. And it becomes such an expense down the road that you can't afford to eat the processed food that's $1 or whatever it is, right?
But that's the lack of education, because they don't know. Mm-hmm. They don't know. They don't know that. They don't think that that's what's causing their problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And obesity. I mean, like diabetes, obesity. I mean, in this country, I just was in Europe. It's like, oh.
Yeah. Healthy.
A lot of these people over here.
Balanced.
I was in Amsterdam. Nobody was in a car. Like, they were all riding a bike and walking. It was like amazing. I was loving life. I was like, oh my God, look at this. But I mean, hello, we need to wake up.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. And to take, it doesn't happen in Ketchum or Sun Valley, but kids don't have gym anymore in public school around the country.
Oh, wow.
Excuse me? Yeah. Why? That's crazy. In the 60s, in the 70s, when I grew up, a million years ago, but they used to have this thing called
in the Great Depression?
They used to have a thing called the President's Challenge. It was
right.
They had the President's Challenge, and the President's Challenge was like you had to do a certain amount of sit-ups and pull-ups, and you had to climb a rope, and every school did this. And it was like, and it was cool because it was competitive, and it was a good thing for kids to do. And I was shy, and it was really hard, and I was really scared and embarrassed and worried. But it was good for me, and that was good for kids. And we don't have that anymore.
By the way, they still had that when I was in middle school. There was you had to pass certain tests to be to pass the class. Like you had to be physically active enough or in shape enough.
That's and we need to get back to that.
We need to
physicality, and we need to change lighting in school. Like these overhead, like horrible lighting, and they're in there for too long, and they don't get breaks. And that was the other thing is like being in Amsterdam, their school, their schedule is different. They come in later because kids need sleep. They come in later, they have breaks throughout the day, like that just makes sense.
More of a natural cycle.
And it goes back to like your body is meant to move. So if you're sitting like all day, every day, you become lazier, you become less likely to move, but like you're never going to get better or become healthier by sitting. You have to move your body. It was made to move.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And, we all sit in the computer, we're on our social media and Sitting is the new smoking. It's like it shuts down.
I like that. That's good. I know. I like that a lot. Sitting is the new smoking. Well, Mariel, let me ask you, as someone with your platform and someone who has dedicated your life to honestly such a good cause and creating a better world and advocating, are there any upcoming projects or initiatives focused on health and well-being that you're excited about currently or you're interested in pursuing?
Well, so I've got, briefly spoke about the Stratosphere, which is the technology. It's a chamber that my husband created that pressurizes you at different altitudes, which is great for athletes, but it's also great for your well-being, creating stem cells and activating your own stem cell growth and red blood cells and mitochondria. And it helps activate a lung tissue that they just discovered in Israel a couple of years ago. So there's that. And then we have a space on PCH in California, Pacific Coast Highway, and it's going to be a wellness facility that will have the Stratosphere, cold plunge, hot plunges, and saunas, and we're going to have PEMF like you guys have, and we're going to have a full gym and other frequency modalities, and and things that I can get Molly to tell me about that I'll get over there.
It sounds amazing.
So that's super exciting. And we're going to also have speakers it's 3 floors. We'll have speakers periodically, talking about the cutting edge of wellness, because we really believe, and talking about food and talking about the 7 doctors, talking about water, talking about these things that you need to do. And we're really, the fountain of youth is movement. So people have to start moving. They have to move their bodies. It's just so incredibly important. So we've got that. I also do a podcast called Out Comes the Sun with a friend of mine, Melissa Yamaguchi, and that's about mental health. And that's kind of, I'm going to take that kind of to the next level of sort of, sharing it with more humans. And then I love speaking. I really enjoy it, especially when they don't speak my language, because then I just think that because I'm like, oh, they don't even understand me, so I can say anything.
So Here Comes the Sun is your podcast, but is there any what are the platforms people can find you?
Okay, so it's called Out Comes the Sun. It was based on a book that I wrote called Out Came the Sun. But it is, so you can find that on YouTube or Apple or Spotify. But also I'm at Mariel Hemingway with 1 M, please. And is that it? And then marielhemingway.co is my website. And then the stratosphereatc.org is the Stratosphere, which is pretty cool. It's a landing page that shows what the Stratosphere does.
Amazing.
And what's the new center called? Have you guys named it yet?
Yes, we did. We came up with a name. It's called The Bridge, because there's a bridge that goes from the building to the ocean. So we're going to call it The Bridge. But because we're trying to do a hot springs facility up there in Ketchum, and there's going to be a bridge from the place to the hot springs. So we'll probably open, early 2025, like proper opening. We'll have a soft opening before that, because we're in Santa Monica right now with,
Great. Okay.
but it's not membership yet.
Okay.
Amazing.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Centered Presents the Future of Health. It's been wonderful and enlightening talking to you.
Oh, well, it's so fun to talk to you.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
talking
you
to
so much, Mariel. I'm so proud of you, everything you do.
Oh, I'm proud of you. And you both look so pretty. So there you go.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Centered Presents The Future of Health. If you're interested in learning more, please visit us at drmollybrown.com or email us at media@drmollybrown.com.